So we have Helena here, fellow Managers Movement member, and I'm so excited you've joined me today, Helena. We're going to have a good old chat. So Helena, lover of colour, 80s music and cycling, so something that you picked back up as a result of lockdown. You believe that the world needs more people who are willing to be their true selves without having to compromise. Absolutely love this. Spreading the I am me message, and a program manager of large complex projects in the railway. Helena also coaches women who have lost their identity due to life change or too many compromises, right? Too many boundaries not being adhered to reclaim and feel confident as themselves. So this is hitting all of my buttons right now, every one of them. So let's start off with, Helena, what's your story? What's your story around going from sort of getting to the point of where you felt like your identity was lost?
I say the first big time I realised that was when I came out of a 10-year relationship. Big change. You come back out into the real world. You've been living with someone, you kind of pseudo married, kind of thing, and then you kind of come out, and then I crashed into London at the same time. So I left the rural Swindon and moved into London as part of my change. And yeah, trying to figure out who I was as a soon-to-be 40-year-old, single, now living in London, working in London. Who was I? Because through living with my partner at the time, I had compromised without realizing to reduce conflict, so that he didn't feel that I was more higher in the band, the corporate world than he was. I didn't earn more than he did. It's kind of keeping that status quo.
So interesting. Yeah, I think so many women will be able to relate to that, right? Not wanting to upset the balance, upset them, upset anyone else. So we what's the word? We sort of blend ourselves in. We bland ourselves. We sort of, what's that color that's not white, but it's gone out of my head. Nude, like just a neutral. We neutral ourselves.
Yeah, and the role I was in was getting more and more high powered, getting more and more political. I was gaining my confidence from a work perspective, which then threw our relationship into a flux, because that put us out of balance and made me realize that it wasn't the right relationship. And so then I left and moved to London, and it's kind of, okay, I've kind of sort of figured out, or slowly figuring out, who I am as a corporate person. But who really is Helena? What can you say is me? And kind of, what do I enjoy? What do I want to do? Where do I want to go? Who do I want to be? All those big questions you kind of think by the time you hit 40, you should answer. You already know the answer to. But it's kind of, I didn't, and because my life had changed, and I wasn't going to be the same person as I was 2 years ago, or that even a month ago.
Yeah, I think when we so often have these, societal ideas of what we should have achieved by, 20, 30, 40, and actually things change so much. And I think our journeys are just so different that when we get caught up on those sort of expectations, all we're doing is setting ourselves up for this disappointment. Like, gosh, what is wrong with me? Why don't I know this? I actually don't. I've been coaching, right? I've been coaching for 5 years, and I don't think anybody has their shit together. Like, I've coached extremely successful people, CEOs, and they don't have their shit together. Like, I don't think anybody would. I don't know, potentially some people might label it as, they know exactly what they're doing. But I think for the large majority of us, we don't.
No. So I kind of regressed, living in London for the first time with money. Oh, I went back to my 20s, started partying, drinking too much, going out too much, you know, all that fun stuff that you kind of go, oh, this is me. This is back to who I was, you know. And they go, oh no, that's my 20-year-old self.
Yeah.
That's not really who I am now. I can't really lose 15 years of my life, you know. So it's kind of working out how to mold the person I was and the person I am now into the person I want to be.
Yeah.
And that's been an interesting journey.
I think that's such a great point you make there, Helena, because often we get nostalgic, don't we? We're like, oh, you know, those days. And we sort of, when we feel lost, when we feel this sense of lost our identity because we've either, you know, we've been made redundant or something happens, like a big life change, like a big sort of breakup after a long-term relationship, we often go, oh, I need to go back to that person without realizing how much we've changed. We need to constantly be tapping into, who am I now? What do I think? It's okay if I don't think the same thing as I did yesterday. I can change my mind. And it takes that reflection, that constant sort of reflection on what your North Star is, what that looks like, who you are. So it's so interesting that you discovered that you sort of regress back thinking, oh, that must be me.
Yeah, and it's been an interesting journey, kind of thing. So there's bits that I realised I did love, and who I want to be who I want part of me now. You know, the fun, the colour, the energy, the troublemaker, the kind of that kind of passion I want to be part of me going forward, and the knowledge, the maturity, the patience, the kind of being able to take a step back and not react with emotion like you would do. Generalizing in your 20s, you're full of, let's just do things, and oh, this is all bad, you know. As a 40-year-old, you kind of have that different life experience where you can take a step back and reassess and go, really, is it as bad as it, you know, or is it a little bump in the road?
Yeah. At what point did you know that something was really up? Like, when you talk about being lost and you lost your identity, what did that look like for you? How did you know that things were bad?
When I had, at the time, I didn't even know that I had lost my identity, because it had been such a gradual decline. You know, one compromise led on to another compromise, they led on to different change. That, until you come out of that whole environment, you don't really realize you're different. You don't know how to operate going forward. And it wasn't until I was starting to bring in me back did my long-term friends come back and say, oh, it's great to have Helena back.
Wow.
And I'm going to go, why didn't you tell me I disappeared?
Yeah. I remember you saying it was almost like you were on autopilot. So autopilot, you know, we don't realize that we're in autopilot because everything's just happening automatically. And actually, you know, that is a function of our brain, right? Our brain is designed to create these shortcuts to automate as much as possible so that we can conserve energy. But often we can do that for whole sections of our lives. We're just on this conveyor belt, you know, that I call it the career conveyor belt. We're just on it and we don't even realize there's sort of a problem until we stop or we get a taste of freedom and we're like, I'm not going back there.
Yeah, so that's kind of similar for me last year as well. So the pseudo divorce, as I class it, was the big one to realize, who am I personally? And then last year, when I was in a job that I really hated, I really disliked, and it was just chipping away at me, trying to, you know, I was losing my confidence, I was losing me, and I was like, at least I recognized the signs this time. And I knew things were happening. And that's kind of when I first met you, and you had your little 5-day challenge, and I kind of struggled with it. And then I kind of caught up. I was like, oh, this is interesting. I think it's like, yeah, let's do them all at once. Yay, yay. Post. And it's like, I kind of realised that this corporate wheel isn't really for me either. And it's like, but I wasn't quite sure what it was that I wanted. And yeah, it's been an interesting couple of months trying to, during that time to work out who am I and what do I really want out of life.
Yeah.
And not keep up with the Joneses. Yes, some of my friends have big houses, but do I really want a big house? I always knew I didn't want to have kids, but do I want marriage? Do I not want marriage? Do I want to still live in London? Do I not? All these, who am I kind of in the future kind of question. I figured out, I kind of had worked towards who am I now?
Yeah.
And it's like, who am I in the future? Oh. And who is it, without all those peer pressures of what I should be and what I should be wanting. And it's like, oh, interesting. Really interesting.
Yeah, completely. I completely relate to that. I spent 2 years in so much frustration at work because I wasn't getting the pay rise. I wasn't getting the promotion. And in my head, I sort of had this idea of what I'd seen, right? It was only what I'd seen. That idea of success is that I get to, where my boss is, and then I climb the ladder. And I was driving myself to burnout, trying to, striving to get this version of success. And, around me, my friends, my colleagues were, buying Mulberry bags with their bonuses. And, they were, it was the job I was in, it was very glamorous. We'd travel to, Vegas, and it was the media industry. So it was very, very, social environment. But I was getting sort of more and more frustrated and very competitive. And I was, I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere, but I felt like I was on this race and I was the only one, like I was alone in this race, but I felt perpetually behind, like I was always behind. And I think for me, and you talk about big change, right? Big change in terms of a relationship, big relationship breaking up, or for me, it was my mum passed away in my mid-20s, and I was like, hold on, like what am I killing myself for? Like, do I actually want to do what my boss does? Or not? That, she was great, she was a fantastic, a very good mentor of mine, very, very appreciative, and the company was great and the people were great, but I was like, actually, do I even want that? I'm killing myself, and I haven't even paused to work out if that's actually what I want.
Yeah.
My story, I think, very, very relatable to yours. Very relatable.
So it's interesting that until we take that moment to stop, do we realize that we need to do something different? Yeah. And I think in some ways COVID has helped us by forcing everyone to pause. Well, I'm saying everyone. There's been a lot of people, unfortunately, who have had to continue working as in the front lines and everything, so they've not had the same opportunities as a lot of us who have had to sit here and look at each other and go, what do I want to do? Who am I? My friends were all spread around the country, so every weekend I was off gallivanting off to places, and and that got taken away from me. It's like, so why am I living in London when all my friends live outside of London? My boyfriend lives outside of London. It's kind of, why am I here?
It's so interesting that, isn't it? Because that's just such a subtle sort of reflection. Because I've got friends in London who have like beautiful flats who would never have even considered moving out, not anytime soon anyway. And a year of COVID, we're beyond a year, and they've already moved out without, and before, I'm talking February 2020, they would never have considered it. But I think, yeah, this situation has really sort of made us all think, hasn't it?
Yeah. And it's made me realize that I don't want the corporate world. It's been fun. It's given me lots of opportunity, lots of skills, lots of friends. But the bit of the program management I like, and that's what I found through doing the diploma on coaching, is actually coaching. Yeah. It's looking at things from different perspective. It's challenging, asking questions, and being a troublemaker in some ways, and kind of translating things between different languages and clarifying and asking questions and being inquisitive. Not the paperwork. I am so not the paperwork. If you need paperwork, I am not your girl. If you want someone to log, make decisions. I can make decisions. I can't get the evidence behind it. But so it's kind of going, coaching is, I've always been coaching.
Yeah.
I now know what the title is. I always thought it was program management and project director, or project world, and it's not. It's actually coaching.
Fantastic. So through this, you got into this state of feeling like you realizing that you sort of lost your identity, lost yourself. You went through this process of self-discovery, and out of it, you've discovered that actually the corporate world isn't for you, and that your long-term vision or a vision that you have, however, in terms of time, that actually coaching is the way to go. So in terms of making that decision of the corporate world not being it, like how much of a big deal is that for you in terms of what you'd initially thought your plan would be?
I always thought I'd be in the corporate world. I am a lifer as a contractor. I've been doing it for 22 years.
Yeah.
So there's always in projects, always in different things. And I've progressed from being project support all the way up to program manager through contracting, which is very rare. And I just thought, I'll take the next step, project director, and all that, keep on going. And I was like, I'm not having as much fun anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, the programs are great and really interesting and really challenging, and the people are really nice, but it's the coaching element that's ticking those boxes, and not actually the rest of the thing. The stress, the political play, the having to actually deal with people on a day-to-day basis compared to observing and being inquisitive. It kind of all those processes that project managers have to do, that I know they need to be in place. I am a passionate advocate for governance and putting those things in place at the beginning, because it helps you going through the program, because I've normally come in at the end at the troubleshooting stage and having to fix things. But I am so not person. I can put them in place, but I'm not the delivery girl who follows those processes. I need to be released. I keep classing it as I never realised I had this whole lion persona kind of thing, that I'm certain things when they try and put me in a bubble, I'm like a caged lion, just want to get out, go, no, I need to do something more wider, more broader, more fun.
Yeah. Have you read the book Untamed by Glennon Doyle?
No.
If you haven't, and the people on this live or watching it replay, what you just said there about like being a trapped lion is her whole premise is around untamed women, like uncaging ourselves. And she talks about like the cheetah. So very quickly, the story, she went to a zoo with her daughter, and one of the attractions, I suppose, or viewing, for the viewer's pleasure, was that there's this cheetah, and the cheetah was born in the zoo, and was brought up with a racing dog. I'm not very good with dogs' names, so it's one of those racing dogs. So they grew up as friends, basically, and the whole idea is that sort of the dog helps to sort of, because they can train the dog, often the cheetah will do the same thing as the dog. So anyway, they basically show how they let the dog go, and the dog chases, there's this pink like scruffy like teddy bear, right? And they set that off, and the dog chases it. Obviously, it's like well done. And look, the cheetah is going to do the same thing, because obviously she wants to do the same thing as her friend dog. And so the cheetah then runs after this pink, like fluffy bear thing. And it was just in this moment, in this great story, she was just like, you know, the cheetah finishes the race, and she sort of is still staring at the cheetah as everyone else is just sort of clapping. And the cheetah is like edging towards the edge and is looking outside the bars. And she was like, I just imagined in that moment that cheetah, you know, like there's something, there's a sense, there's this intuition in that cheetah going, this isn't it. Like, this isn't supposed to be my life. Like, there is something more. But often, because we haven't seen it, we haven't seen that thing, it's not something we've experienced, we've like, there's a block for us, because we can't, we often only can do what we've seen. Or and so it was just your story there of being the lion and needing to sort of be out of the cage really sparked that memory of that book.
I'm gonna have to give it a read. Yeah.
Oh, it is fantastic. It is very well written. Wild. It's like the way it's written is untamed. Like, it's very it's yeah, it was almost like liberating to read. It was a really interesting story. Yeah. So Helena, what would you say is, you've sort of made this shift from feeling lost, you've done the work in terms of sort of this self-discovery, you've got this new lease of life, and also this new vision that you have. So what is different for you now? How would you describe the difference that you feel now, or experiencing now?
Relief and relaxation and joy. Kind of, when I know I'm doing things for me, I am so excited. I'm so happy. Scared shitless like this, but yeah.
Yes, for those on the live, I basically pulled Helena's arm to come and do this live with me.
Having fun. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's kind of there is a peace when you're working on something you love and working true to yourself. You're not fighting against yourself.
Yeah, I think that's an important topic. Let's explore that for a moment. This you know, we haven't really touched on it specifically. What is important about being our true selves? Because actually it sounds like an easy thing, right? Just be yourself. But actually it's so hard, right? The reality is it's really hard.
Yeah, because you have your own inner mind telling you, oh, you're a bit too noisy, you're causing too much trouble. You have other people commenting and going, you should really have said that, or don't you think you should tame that down? And yeah, or the general society going, you're female, you know, you should be a little meek woman who, you know, just goes home, cooks tea, becomes a mother, you know. Being someone who's always known she just hasn't wanted to have kids, you're constantly kind of butting up against people going, but why? It's the thing you should always do. You know, you're a female, you must want kids.
I have do I have to be a footballer? Like, it's just ridiculous. Yeah.
You know, it is like all those societal elements and family, they kind of mold you into something, and you go along for the ride for a while, and then you kind of, it's like with growing up, you're going along for the ride, working out who you are, what things are at, you know, as a child, really baby, you're allowed to do things, and then as you grow up, you get told no, that's not allowed. You know, there's all those kind of areas where society kind of restricts you and bounds you down and says, no, you know, you can't have a tantrum in the middle of the supermarket when you're 20. You know, why not? You know, they move the baked beans. Do they know how annoying it is to find stuff every time they move things in the supermarket?
Yeah.
You know, and it's being able to work out who you are,
Yeah.
And stay true to that, even when other people are trying to push you in a different direction. And yes, we all have to compromise. Yeah, I had to compromise my fear to come on this, but it's compromising while still remaining you.
Yeah.
You don't have to compromise to the point where you've lost yourself and the other person has more power than you. It's an equal element of power.
There's a Dolly Parton quote I love. I mean, I'm a big fan of Dolly Parton. Not only is she an incredible singer, she built a career in a very male-dominated industry, but she's also a very savvy businesswoman. Her quote is, "Find out who you are and do it on purpose." Sometimes what we don't realize is that I talk about this a lot with sort of my coaching clients, is about our subconscious mind. We don't realize how much information is being soaked up without us even knowing it, without us even consciously realizing it. And we're making decisions, our emotions are being led, and our actions are being led by those, right? It's all being driven, or a lot of it is being driven from that subconscious. So if we don't delve in every now and then and go, actually, as you say, who am I? And who do I want to be? And what do I believe in? And what do I don't believe in anymore? What is serving me that's stored in there? What are the beliefs or the value systems that I picked up along, the 30, 40, 50 years that I've been alive? And which ones do I still want to hold on to? And which ones are going to help me get to that next stage? And we have to constantly do that process, because as you say, we're going to change along the way. So much is going to change.
Yeah, and it's a constant battle's the wrong word, but constant fight in elements where things happen, and because you're so used to compromising, that's your first step, is to go, oh yeah, no, don't worry, yeah, I'll do that, or I'll change. But then you kind of go, no, that's a boundary. You crossed too far. I'm not. And it's kind of having that constant reminder and that, visual or goal in place, going, that's not towards my North Star. Yeah. Yes, there's a wiggly path. Totally agree. There's a wiggly path, but is it still heading in the right direction, or am I going backwards?
Yeah.
And there's still times when I kind of go backwards a little bit, but I'm getting better at recognizing when that happens and catching it early and going, no, boundary crossed, back to boundary and move forward. And having those conversations with different people to go, kind of let's rediscuss that. Let's have another look at that and see whether we can make a different decision going forward that is more equal to both of us.
Yeah, I think as well, we often don't think that these things are costing anything. So, the constant like relaxing or not setting those boundaries, or when we're in a job that we hate, but we're sort of saying, oh, it pays the bills, or when we're in a relationship, or we're in a situation where we're like, oh, the job's okay, it's a bit boring, but all of these things do have a cost. They have a cost on our energy when we're not doing the things, when we're not utilizing our strengths, our natural talents, when we're not doing the things that light us the fuck up. What that means is that we're actually depleting our energy. It's like almost like, I describe it as like, the waves on the sort of cliffs. It's a slow depletion of ourselves and our energy, because when we're not in those periods of flow, so often there's the flow theory, when we're able to sort of work our most creatively, when we're working in our strengths, all of that is when we're getting the most energy, when we're feeling alive. So when we're not, those things are costing, right? It might not be money in the physical sense of it, you're getting paid, but there is a cost. There is.
And it might not be one thing. So, I kind of class it as, you might not have an allergy that needs an EpiPen where you need to get it, to have the change quickly and fixed. It might just be an accumulation of little things over time, and it just, you suddenly realize that, where did that boundary go?
Yeah.
It's that slow, you know, the big change, you can comes in with a big crash. You kind of realize you normally catch that quite quickly. It's the small gradual change that is harder to catch.
Yeah.
Because you go, it's only because of this, it's only because of that, but together.
Sometimes more dangerous that way, right? Because you don't even realize it's happening.
No. And
yeah.
That's the bit I think about change and loss of boundaries and identity that people don't realize. They always see the big change and the massive dramatic change, but it's the slow gradual one that is the one that really eats at you and is the harder one to come back from.
Yeah. And I also think with these things, it doesn't necessarily take, you know, oh, I've got to leave my corporate job and suddenly become an entrepreneur, or I've got to leave my corporate role and go traveling for a year. It doesn't have to be like that. I think when, you know, often when people are talking about like discovering themselves and like learning more about themselves, they think that this massive transformation needs to happen. And actually it's these tiny actions every day that get you slightly more alignment with what you believe in, what your values are, who you've chosen to be in the world, and how you can the next day do that a bit more, and the next day do that a bit more. And sometimes that means doing that in your role. So for me, I hated my job. I was in a situation where I was so frustrated. I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. Lots of conflict with my manager at the time, who was a good friend of mine as well. And so it was a really difficult space to be in, but it was often I was creating that because of my frustrations and my anger and my jealousy and because I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. And so I was sort of projecting that out into the world, but I wasn't necessarily doing anything strategic or constructive, or I wasn't using the resources that I had to sort of navigate that. And it was only when I did that work, I looked at, okay, who do I want to be? What do I want to do? And I started to be a bit more strategic about that I stopped, you know, that I could manage the conflicts with my manager and all of those, and things started to improve. And every day I was living a bit more. You know, I didn't leave my corporate job for 2 years, even though at the beginning of that I hated it. It wasn't like I was like, that's it, I'm leaving. I didn't want to leave my job. But every day I just got a little bit closer to who I wanted to be and what I wanted. And I found that I was able to sort of mold my role because I was thinking far more strategically about the relationships I was building, all of that. I was able to sort of mold my role into what I wanted it to be, which was quite an empowering space to be in.
Yeah, I do feel that when we're in a positive frame of mind, things come to us and people are more open to working with you. If you're constantly negative, yes, I was the queen of no for a while. It was kind of, but that's all people see you as, is no, negative. Don't ask Helena, she'll just say no all the time. But going, okay, I get where you're going, I understand. Can we tweak? Can we play? Can we just move, you know, can we do something slightly more than what, you know, this bit? And that's when people come and start helping you.
Yes.
Going, it's kind of, okay, totally understand where you're coming from, but I need some more enjoyment. I want to do something different, you know. I want to work with, you know, with leaders, you know, and they go, oh, did you know about our mentoring program? I go, oh no, you know, it's all those new opportunities that happen in the corporate world and outside that people don't talk to you about because they don't know you're looking.
Yes, I think it was reciprocation that I came across quite at that point. It was this idea of reciprocal relationships, you know, not in a transactional way, but in a way of how can I look at my relationships, and especially the ones where I've got conflicts, how can I look at these in a way of, you know, you're just a person like me trying to get somewhere. So for my manager, realizing that she was just trying to, it's loud in Greenwich.
Yeah. That's your coffee break.
Yeah. But she was just, she's just a woman, a person trying to make her way with all the inner critic, and she's dealing with confidence, and she's dealing with getting to where she wants to go. She's dealing with the workload, she's dealing with all the things that I'm dealing with. And I think that realization, I could then approach that relationship and go, okay, what is it that she needs? And if I can help her get to where she needs, then there's that opportunity, not that it will happen, because it might not, but there's that opportunity that it might be reciprocated, and that if I can help her, she will help me. And I started, that worked, that I was like, if I think about it from this point of view, of course she's struggling with all the things I am, just on a different level. And how can I build that across my organization? And then how can I build that across the industry and then outside the industry? So I think that was that social capital, such a key one.
I think that's what's really powerful about the way your membership and your courses are, the monthly thing, where you're teaching people to ask coaching questions and ask the what's, the how's, the who's, staying slightly away from the whys, but asking those questions to a person who's got their back up and doesn't want to be in the conversation with you, and allows them to be heard, just releases all the tension and all the conflict out of a conversation. And then reframing your language to mirror theirs and go, I feel the same, I have the same issue with this thing, just ends up being, from conflict, ally building. And it's a really powerful way of working. And a lot of times the conflict is purely semantics and language and perceptions. And once you get past that and to the root of everything and have a common language, you've got a brilliant group of allies who can support you personally, work-wise, and with whatever you want.
Absolutely. And your work now, Helena, is about sort of working with women and leaders, and sort of those looking, I know it's sort of new leaders as well, those looking to sort of embark on that first leadership step, to work on this feeling of feeling lost or lost identity, and sort of helping them to make that sort of transformation that you have. So where can people find out more about you? Where can people link up with you? Where's the best place to find you? Great.
I've got the company is Limited Edition Coaching, and you can find me on LinkedIn and on Facebook, or you can just link in with me directly on either platform. And it's great talking to different people about those changes.
And those experiences, right? That's, as coaches, we just love to hear a story. Give us a story. We love to hear it.
And it's like, when you put people together who, like we say, different change, a person that's moving into a leadership role, or someone who's left their long-term partner, once they get down to the pure elements, they go, the situations are different, but what they're feeling and what they need is still the same.
Absolutely. Well, Helena, this was a real joy. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been such a great conversation. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you all for joining us. If you're catching this on